Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we
'Cause
do
this
have a lot
one's-
to
this
get.
one's
We do have a
very-
lot to get through this episode of that. So I guess we can officially kick off episode 3 virtual recap with Ducky and Hannah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. But yes. So I wish I could talk about Vesper's cover because it is a really, really good cover. And on top of that, like Yonezu Kenshi, one of my faves, I may or may not have admitted to having like a quasi-romantic crush on the man because I think he is super hot. Or his talent is hot, anyway.
Okay, say how you really feel.
Yeah, I know, right? Yes, it is legit. He is my husbando. But yeah, like, it was interesting today because we woke up to some news about yet another doxing. And normally I don't like to draw attention to what happens during a doxing campaign or something, but I did want to highlight how people should react to it because it seemed like a lot of very, very well-intentioned people wanted to highlight the doxing, but did so in a way that kind of perpetuated the harm. And so I was like, Ducky, we gotta talk about this because unfortunately in VTuber land, doxing is even more prevalent than everywhere else because nowhere is it even, I don't want to say it's even more harmful, but like for a group of people who deliberately go into becoming VTubers because they want to be private citizens in their regular life. You can think of doxing as like uniquely harmful for this one group of individuals because they're just like, you know what, I don't want to put my face out there, which is a very legit thing, right? Like, yeah, exactly. It's a group of people that deliberately go like, please don't talk to me in real life. Right? And so this makes some people go bet in like the worst of ways. And people will try to find them. And so it's very, very critical that like we refresh how to talk about doxing situations, which is like, if someone gets doxed, show support, but we all kind of understand why doxing is bad. And so never like directly say this person has been doxed. Like, I think doxing is bad. I think we can all agree that doxing is very, very bad.
I've actually brought up an article if we want to relate it more to VTubing because your comment just kind of reminded me of when I interviewed Shy Lily last year for Desherto, which I will drop a link in the comments down there, where she said, you know, I'd just be at a train station because she was previously a face cam streamer, so that's the behind this. So it's like, I'd just be at a train station, some dude would pressure me into buying Dunkin' Donuts and eating them with him. I didn't know how to handle situations where people would walk up to you in real life and interact with you like they know you. To you, it's a random person on the train walking up to you, grabbing my longboard and saying, "Yo, Lily, cool board, looks really nice." And I'm like, who the fuck are you? You can't just grab my shit. So it's like,
people like, well, I don't know about Lily's situation, but I do know about some others. Some have made it public on stream, some have not. So, for example, like Kenmochi Toya has mentioned being sexually assaulted on stream. Some others have not, but I can very much, given what they've said both in member streams and privated VODs, be like absolutely certain that there are more than just him who fall into this situation. But they are VTubers for various reasons, and there's a reason why this particular form of streaming was invented in a country that absolutely loves privacy more than like
anything else. Yeah. It all it all checks out.
Yeah.
I know it was like alluded, like if you haven't seen like all of the clips that Hannah is talking about, it comes from, you might have seen like the 3-piece idol group that are like emulating more like J-pop idol style versus K-pop idol style in the and they're based out of California, I think. Anyways, they had a clip go viral. They had clips go viral on Twitter, and it left the idol space, and people started commenting on how weird and parasocial it was.
Which is really sad, because, like, okay, so I mentioned this yesterday on another stream, and I'm gonna say it again, but, like, I am, if they are like the group of people that performs to 15 people at a convention. I am one of those 15 people.
You're biased.
Like, I'm gonna be frank. Like, they perform for people like me who can't, are not oil barons, so I can't, like, yes, exactly. There are people like me in chat. Thank you, I'm not alone.
Yeah, you have brethren.
But, like, yes! Nakama!
Yeah.
But, like, we can't fly to Japan all the time,
Yeah.
so we kind of create our own spaces where there are people who want to perform like them, and there are people like me who want to see them and kind of want to feed. Yes, we need to vote a gay in our backyards, and we have our idols at home, and this is our idols at home.
Yeah. So yeah.
So like, it's really sad that there were so many people who were like, "What is this? This is so weird." And there are other people who kind of took the bullying. I mean, the bullying was already bad enough, but the bullying went even further. And so, in general, especially, like, you'll notice this in both Ducky and my reporting, that
my screen just went away.
We never, ever talk directly about doxing situations because of this reason. That, like, doxing is very deliberately a crime where you're basically saying your entire life is public and I can find you whenever I want. And so, like, by hiding and just being like, hey, I support you. I'm gonna donate to your Ko-Fi 500 times because I think, like, you are really GOAT. And I hope you keep on doing this. And I hope to see you at AX and see you perform and everything, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just really wanted to stress that, like, I saw a lot of very, very good intention, but, like, unfortunately executed people who were just like, these people got doxxed. Yeah. I'm so sad. Should have never gotten this far. And I'm like, don't say that.
The thing is like, okay. Just to bring it, like, just to tie it in and kind of tie a bow on this topic and, like, rehash the whole point of when we step around these topics, we step around them carefully. There's been a few recent examples of that in VTubing. The first one that my mind went to was the Isla Coleman doxing for Project Kawaii. Production Kawaii. I always say Project Kawaii. Production is just so long to have at the start of that. But when Isla Coleman was being harassed and stuff, and it's like, we mention the fact that it happens because we kind of have to in the roles that we are, but you don't give any sort of indication of where it is. You don't give any sort of indication. You don't, like, show a tweet saying it's happened. You don't show a tweet of, you maybe show a tweet saying, you know, people being like, don't do this, but you don't show the tweet of, like, you know, where they could find tangible information on the topic.
Yeah.
So
few websites who would ever publish this and say, hey, like, this information is available on our website. Like, that's actually part of the harm, where fortunately most sane websites would never host this kind of information. But that also means that if you want to find information on people, you know exactly where to go.
Yeah.
And that's even more why we never talk about it.
It's like, for many people, it's always been considered, like, open secrets is how people sometimes see it and how they justify it. And I mean, like, in some cases, like, the information can be used positively and usefully, but there is much more risk of harm than there is of, you know, anything good coming out of it. And in this field, we're all about minimizing harm. So,
like, I'm gonna tie this into a series that I know you've wanted to do for a while, but I don't know if you've started it.
No, I haven't.
Yes, Ducky is going to be doing an amazing series about how to minimize harm when you're covering just, like, celebrity journalism.
Yeah. The series is actually more about, like, media literacy and, like, journalism in the online space, and more of an educational point. But episode number 1, or one of the first episodes, will be about minimizing harm.
It's, like, so important. I think this has been sorely wanted in just, like, celebrity journalism in general, because unfortunately people kind of go, well, celebrities aren't really human. They're, like, larger than life, so we can treat them as, like, non-human. And that's not true. They are also human beings.
Yes.
So a very, very, like, unfortunate example of this is in the US, when Kobe Bryant passed away, I think it was Kobe Bryant, when he passed away in that god-awful helicopter crash.
Yes. Yes.
TMZ reported about it immediately,
Yeah.
thereby breaking a very, very holy and sacred unspoken norm in journalism where you don't report on these things
until the family's informed.
Yeah, exactly. And the family was not having it.
Yeah.
Which is their right and their prerogative. But, like, unfortunately, that's just an example of how people kind of think about celebrities.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think, like, this media literacy series is going to be so good.
And drawing parallels to VTubing, it's kind of the way people discussed... The most emblematic example is the way people discussed Rish's termination, I think. Is, like, that really kind of sparked the whole movement of, like, how much is too much, like... you know, sharing the info, because the info was very widely available and she was still talking, but it was like, how much is too much to share and all that, and etc. And it's like, in online journalism, it's murky because the thought, and I think it's rightfully so, is that, well, if it's online, it's publicly accessible, therefore it's publicly available and free to report on. And that's true to an extent, but there's also like a level of decency there where it's like, you can report on it, but do you need to report on it? So yeah, anyways, that's an entire tangent on like what I'm doing for future content, which more busyness. Not like that I'm already insanely busy on this long weekend where I promised myself I'd have a day off and now I don't have one. But you know, we love content.
Yeah, you're doing something that is going to have very, very real and very, very like positive impacts on the world.
Yeah, that's what I tell myself to sleep at night.
I think it's a good reason to tell yourself to sleep at night.
Yeah. Alright, well, I think it's ready. Actually, hold on. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Even though we delayed stream start so that I could get ready, I am still not ready.
What is VTuberness without scuff? So, like, as I entertain chat while you're getting ready, I am hosting a panel that I called the Niji Sanji Unit Festival scuff version.
Oh god, yes.
And like, I sent it to my friends and they were just like, man, this title is so fitting.
Alright, I'm gonna run a quick ad for everyone. Because I need to go look after my lamb. I've got roast lamb in the oven right now. And then this should be the last time I touch it during stream. So, get it done now, and then we get into the news. Alright, so I'll be back in a sec. Alrighty, thank you for entertaining.
Yeah,
that took a bit longer than expected.
Funny stories. How is your lamb?
It's going good. It's starting to fall off. It's starting to fall away from the itself and pull apart. It has another 2 hours to go in the oven.
Nice.
And I'm very
Maru doesn't believe that we eat steak for breakfast. Yo, Americans eat steak for breakfast too, you know?
Yeah, they do, Mario, and it's fucking horrifying.
What? This is an insult against my culture! Steak is delicious!
Sausages for breakfast, alright? Or even if it's like a sausage patty, is acceptable in my eyes. The fact that steak and eggs is such a popular thing is such a no-brainer for me.
Why? Steak is delicious.
I don't want to wake up in the morning, you'd be like, you know what, I want to prepare a very nice, steak for myself. That's like, I have to gear myself up to that and work myself to that across the day. And then if I make a steak and it's not nice, I'm going to just be bitterly disappointed.
Okay, so in America, we have like barbecue competitions where they need to start prep like 3 days beforehand.
Yes.
Because they'll literally barbecue for 72 straight hours.
Yep.
It's delicious. Everyone should eat it.
Yep.
This is an American propaganda moment.
Look, you can try it once and then knock it. I have tried it once, and therefore I will knock it. So there you go. Alrighty. Let's jump right into it. We've got quite a few topics because it's been 3 weeks since we last did this because last weekend was a no-brainer because you were at a con.
Yeah, anime conventions.
Let's go.
Oh.
And getting stepped on by Leona.
Yes, that was the best moment of the convention.
I need to find a
Everyone
photo
should
of it.
get stepped on by Leona.
Where's the photo of it?
Leona cosplayers.
It's somewhere in your media tab.
I like
you tweet. You
so much.
tweet too much.
I'm too terminally online.
There we are.
Oh, I had the Bayonetta cosplayer step on my Mista friend too. That was really great. She was so confused in line where she was just like, wait, I don't really understand what you mean. And I was just like, don't worry about it. My friend likes it, and the person he's cosplaying would like it too. And she talked to him, and she was just like, are you sure you have a white jacket? And he's like, I am sure.
I will do whatever it takes.
Soft.
It's all in stilettos anyways. It won't leave the massive footprint.
Oh, we wanted the massive footprint. We were like,
okay.
Step harder.
and they wonder why people don't associate with the anime fandom.
I know, right? But she's part of the anime fandom, and she was so good-natured about it too, which is great.
Yeah. Alrighty, I promise no more tangents. I'm gonna do that because we're gonna close and talk about this. Yes. Veibae.
Yes.
So, God, by the time, now we're talking about it a week on, almost. It's kind of old news, but that's kind of our specialty here. We kind of just recap whatever happened in the last time since we last streamed. So, Veibae, the context of the situation, and then I'll throw it off to you, Hannah, is Veibae went on, had a stream on her re-debut stream as an independent VTuber following her departure from VShojo. At the end of the stream, she did a sign-off where she used an ableist slur, also known as the R word, as people like calling it. I'm not going to repeat it on Twitch. It will come up in various tweets that we'll be looking through, so it's there. I'm just not going to say it. That kind of led to a lot of discourse around the appropriate use of language by big streamers, especially big VTubers, in a space that promotes itself as being more accepting than regular streaming, in a sense, and is definitely more diverse than regular streaming, as we have discussed on previous episodes. And whether the word use is acceptable and fine and almost like a reclaimed term, a la like queer is for some LGBT folk, versus it being offensive because it is an outdated term that is no longer used in medical terminology to describe intellectual disability, which is what it was previously used as. So, with all that being said, what is your take on the situation, Hannah?
So, I guess I need to preface this by saying, like some of the people in chat, I am also very, very much like a political activist. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing in the United States on Pride Day, and like, I hope this time around I'm not going to get punched, right?
We can hope. One can hope.
We can hope. But like, the reason why I mentioned this is because there is a very, very real, perception in society that somehow the neurodivergent lived experience is lesser. That something about it is like not, it isn't to say that it isn't full of hardships, right? Like, as somebody who is neurodivergent myself, it is very difficult sometimes. But it doesn't mean that I don't like being alive, right? Yeah. It's not to say that, like, my lived experience doesn't have value or meaning. And the problem with using, particularly the slur that she was using, is that there is this derogatory connotation to it that kind of transmits this perception of like neurodivergence are lesser.
Yeah.
And implied in that is that because we are lesser, we are less deserving. And unfortunately, what this has actually resulted in is that in certain countries, there are no more neurodivergence in their child population. like period, right? And so there are no special eds classes because literally people just choose not to have neurodivergent children.
Yeah.
And it is up to both like chat and society whether or not that is something that we want. But I think it's worth considering reevaluating how we think about particularly this one group of neurodivergent people, because Down syndrome is such, like, we need to really rethink how we think about people with Down syndrome, because they have been stepped on so much. But like, yeah, that is a very, very long way to say, like, I seriously disagree with how she thinks about it.
Yeah, so a lot of the arguments that, I mean, the same argument that Veibae used as well is like, her space is not meant to be a safe space, quote unquote, and the language that she uses there is the language she wants to use, as long as she's not breaking the Twitch terms of service, it's okay, which, as far as I'm aware, using that slur isn't a bannable offense on Twitch, at least if it's not used in an offensive manner. And many have argued that because it was used towards fans, then it is less offensive. But the thing that also boils up the other argument that I have seen online as well, and that Veibae kind of talked about, was that while she was on VShojo for 2 years, she kind of had to self-censor for a little bit. She couldn't, use the language that she wanted to use. She couldn't say the things she wanted to say. And to that, I say, tough shit. That's kind of the nature of corporatism in 2023, where I don't like framing it in this way, but it's the way that I used to describe it, so don't castrate for me for it. But it's what I like to call catering to the lowest common denominator, where as a content creator, especially a prolific content creator, and especially when you're a prolific content creator for an agency, you have to cater towards the most sensitive side of your fan base. Because that is... Yes, you have to cater towards diversity and inclusion. Because that is where corporate sentiment is heading. That is where the money is heading. People are pulling a lot of their massive money, like at a small scale level. You can definitely get by with not doing that. There will be enough money in the pool at a small scale level, even at a streamer level like at Veibae is, where it is totally acceptable and not acceptable, but a totally fair way to make money by having no filter, not catering towards that, and being what like a lot of people say is authentically yourself, which is okay, cool, power to you, but there is a limit and a ceiling on that. And when you want to join a corporation, or where you want to get that next major sponsorship, or you want to get more money through a merch deal or something, these are the kinds of instances that rise up and perk the ears of a prospective sponsor or a prospective merchant and say they don't want to associate their product with that kind of language. So while in essence, yes, it is totally valid to say whatever you want on stream, because, I'm not necessarily the most like, I don't like to say I'm a free speech defender, because that comes with a lot of extra baggage. You're allowed to say what you want, what you want to say on stream, but know that your actions have consequences. And in an influencer space, in an influencer space, those consequences are losing sponsorships, losing a portion of your fan base. And if you're doing that to cater towards a larger side of your fan base that you have deemed to be financially justifiable to do so on a monetary level, or like something that is going to make you more comfortable with streaming, then sure, be wary of that. But also be wary of the fact that there will be a ceiling on that growth.
And I also kind of want to challenge, like, being authentic. Like, yes, I have a private Twitter account. Why did I create it? Because
I have two.
Like, people see how much I tweet, and I'm just like, you guys don't want to see how many cats I can physically retweet in a day.
You already tweet so much on main, on public.
Exactly. And like, you have no idea just how many cat videos I can retweet in a given day, right? So when Veibae's like, oh, like, everybody says this in private, no, bitch, I do not say this in private. You know what I say in private? I'm just like, here are my 50,678 cat videos that I would love to show you in private.
Yeah. Yeah, so like obviously, so this is like some of the reactions that I've got on screen because it was brought up on Twitter by Powder, who like kind of got semi-crucified for it and semi didn't at the same time. I thought it was like a very interesting question to kind of provoke. A lot of it's obviously going to be top level heavy to my following right now, and my following very much heavily leans to this word being bad, which
Yes.
is a
think
deliberate,
that's the
a deliberate,
universal sentiment
which is a
of it,
deliberate decision in the curation of my community and the people that I follow. But it's like, you know, Hanako, previous person I've interviewed, you know, shouldn't be saying it. Cottontail, Chibi, Itsue, Ruzu, Kiyomiza, Tiff, Spite. And there's like a couple of people in here who have like, I can kind of agree with the points of like, I maybe not agree, but I can see where they're coming from. So someone like Kurumi from VStream is like, you know, I don't care, I'm neurodivergent, but it doesn't offend or bother me. But, you know, especially if it's in a joking manner, someone straight up throwing it to try and belittle abuse, that's where you draw a line. And that I'm happy for that to be like a personal response, but it's also like from how I see things as an optics perspective and from a press, like a PR perspective, it's not the greatest optics.
Perspective as an American is gonna also color this, right? So my parents were born in the 60s.
Yep.
My parents lived through the deliberate eugenics of the black population here. And so I think, I don't know if Veibae is American, but like, if you are an American and you think this is okay to say, like, that, you will not see heaven. I'm sorry. Like, that is literally my exact response. You will not see heaven. The people that we interact with on a daily basis have actually lived through a eugenics movement that attempted to wipe out the neurodivergent population of several minority groups. And there are still political, very, very powerful families who literally killed off their neurodivergent family members. So don't give me this like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal kind of shit. Like, it's only one generation removed from us. So if you're an American and saying this, you have a special place in hell.
The thing, so this is, I've just bring up this tweet because this will probably be the last little bit. We'll talk about one little thing additionally to this. So, Keioku, also someone that I have previously interviewed, said this in reply to Powder's tweet, and I think it's probably the closest to how I feel about it, while also not being neurodiverse. So, she says, I'm neurodivergent. While I don't personally take offense to the use of the word, if it's a word that is historically rooted and causes harm and hurts people, then why would you not avoid it? It doesn't harm you to help others out by not using a word. It's more of a show of arrogance, exceptionalism, rebelliousness, disrespect to use a word you know hurts people. Why stoop that low? You don't need to use that word to have your personality, humor, or brand. It carries in everything else you say or do. All this does is show your character and nurture a certain demographic of audience, and it's not a good one. For me personally, even if you don't understand or feel offended, this is just a matter of what kind of person you are. And that is the perfect, in my opinion, take on it all.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna be frank, like, it is difficult for me to eliminate this word. I am a gamer. I grew up on 4chan, but I'm still gonna try because I think it is worth trying. And yeah. I love this take of, like, look, a good group of people find this very offensive, and it does perpetuate a very specific kind of harm that is harming people right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's, like, a very, very perfect way of encapsulating it.
And I think that would have been made easier, you know, if Veibae came out and didn't double down. She came out and doubled down and said, like, never claim my stream to be a safe space. And all that kind of, and kind of just went on that. And then she's actually in this Twitter thread. You know, this guy has when I followed this person, they had, or when I saw this person on my timeline, they had 300 followers and now they're at 520 off the back of this.
Oh gosh. So
like Veibae like went out and like spoke about it. They kind of just slandered them for it, where it's like, this tweet where it's like, didn't realize adult responsibilities consisted of being terminally online and watching my content to get triggered. Like going back towards like the guy who tweeted it out. I'm dying. Oh
no!
I'm sorry.
Don't die. Yeah. You just debuted.
I know. So because like she kind of came out and said like, you know, I'm just going to use this language and you're going to have to deal with it, is kind of like, well, sure, we can deal with it. But I look at this from a marketing perspective. I look at this from a commercialization perspective. And while Mario did bring up like Veibae's size starts to get to too big to fail territory, I agree in the online creation space for now, but there is a ceiling that will be hit. And you'll find out that a lot of people who end up breaking through that ceiling end up doing, like, going off and doing some pretty good things as well. I mean, Ludwig is probably a really good example of that. And while there is a fair share of gamer bros and gamer types at the top of streaming, looking at Asmongold and etc., that thrive off of this kind of commentary, and I think do make up the majority of the big names on Twitch and YouTube, with the direction that the industry is heading, it's going to change. So, companies are becoming a lot more conscious of this. And as a result, when the creator bucks start drying up, especially in this tech downturn, the creators better start looking towards it as well, in my opinion. The additional point I just wanted to add on one little thing to this before we there's a couple of little things I want to add on. One is that I wanted to talk about this suspension in particular from Lucid regarding Rosa Codal, where she tweeted out something about the evolution of language in regards to Veibae's comments.
What does this have to even do with anything?
And so she tweeted about like the evolution of language, saying like, you know, if word bad in the past but word means something new in present, am I bad for using word with new definition? Are you bad for insisting the old definition can't go away? Am I preventing language from evolving, or is it you? And the very simple answer to that is get off your armchair philosophy chair. The second answer to that is no. It's a case of you always, I find that for language, you always have to try and just play it as safe as possible. Mm-hmm. You're speaking to two people who deal with the intricacies of language on a daily basis. I feel like we have some authority on that.
Just like this argument actually makes no sense, where she's like, oh, like this language has evolved, and I'm like, no one's debating that the language has evolved, but we're saying that the way it has evolved reveals something about society. And we should think about that.
And also, Lamp brings up the good point there of it doesn't mean something new in the present, it literally means the same thing. And that's true. The word hasn't evolved in meaning like queer, I guess, where that has semi-evolved in meaning, not like excessively, but it's evolved enough that it's easy to reclaim. You can't reclaim a word like this. You really can't. And there are times where you have, like, there are still times where it's used in like medical and scientific definitions, because the full meaning of the word, you know, is like a slowing down. Like, it's a French word. So there you go. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's still like valid use cases for it, but its meaning hasn't changed. And I guess the point that I wanted to get at here is like, you know, Rosa put this out, is now on a 10-day suspension. Lucid suspended her as a result of that tweet and those comments. The replies are a cesspool. I won't even sugarcoat it. It's a lot of people going through and saying, you preached, you know, talent freedom and freedom of speech, and yet here you are banning a talent for 10 days over language that they used on Twitter. But as I was mentioning, with all of the optics and marketing and all that side of things, VTuber agencies kind of have to stamp down on this kind of behavior, which is why these comments probably wouldn't have been acceptable if Veibae made them in VShojo, but are acceptable now, and why these comments are not acceptable for Rosa to make, because she is an agency.
And it's also just like, look, this is freedom of speech. She was allowed to say it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be consequences.
Exactly.
Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences, and this is something that people have to separate.
Yeah. I guess to wrap it all up, finally, what is your take on the importance of language and safe spaces online, especially in the VTubing community, and where ultimately should creators kind of cater their energy towards and cater their content towards, in your eyes?
Like, okay, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I do know some of the marketing buyers were some of the larger companies, and I will say that this entire controversy is unfortunately gonna scare them all off, right? Because if you want to know who is more allergic than anybody else, like even a so-called SJW like myself, right, to this sort of nonsense, it is literally a Madison Avenue marketing agency, right? So Madison Avenue is extremely averse to any sort of um drama online. And when they see this, they're just like, well, you know what? Doesn't matter if you've tried to apologize. You are just dead to us now. Right? It's just like your point about commercialization is so true. Some of these men, some of the people who work on Madison Avenue are super regressive, but you'll never hear it.
Yeah.
You would never ever hear it. Because they're just like, it doesn't matter if I'm personally regressive. I want the bag.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're just gonna have to deal with it if you want the money.
Yep. So it's like this is where the money is going, and it might not. I feel like it might not be evident now, but from everything like working in the corporate world, you kind of see that that's the direction it's going. There's a lot of steps being taken to open up diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion includes people with disability and neurodiverse people, and therefore language like this is going to become less and less acceptable. So while I think, say it for all you want, I'm not the one saying it. I don't have to back up my own commentary for that. But know that you can say it, and then there will also be consequences for your actions. And don't come crying to me when those consequences occur.
So. It's not a suppression of free speech when we say, like, hey, Unilever can back away from a deal if you say something.
Yeah. Also, that's very true. Being inclusive makes more profit overall. I have done the research on this. Companies that are more diverse and inclusive are more resilient and they earn more money. So there you go.
Yeah. Just look at Dove.
Yeah. That ad.
Dove is the perfect example.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about the gamer ad that they just released, and I'm like, that was interesting. It's the right message through the wrong channel.
Yeah. For me, the big one is the Guinness one. The one where they were showing the men kind of like bonding as they were playing. You guys look it up. Definitely look it up. I think it actually won a Silver Lion. It was a bunch of men playing basketball in wheelchairs because one of their friends was differently bodied, and they were like, we want to make him feel included.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, that's enough on that. We can now move to, I guess this is a little bit of like an interesting topic because it's been creeping up a lot more on my socials a lot now, is VStream, this new-ish platform. I mean, they've been kind of kicking around doing things for a while now, but they finally launched like Wave 1 on May 8 and then Wave 2 on May 22. So they've gotten like 50 odd VTubers now on this new streaming site that has been catered towards VTubers specifically. So on their website, because I think they have an about. There we go. They say, we're here to amplify the VTubing culture as it evolves with the best exclusive content and features to feed our growing community. So it includes a number of decently sized streamers. Like there's some streamers on here who have like 10, 15, 20k followers on Twitter. Previously had audiences of Twitch in the thousands of followers and like up in the like 100 CCV range. Moving to this new platform. Chisei's actually in my Discord. And Chisei also has a background with another app that did something similar, called Prodigy. And so this site is basically here. Oh god, my throat is dying. It's all the streaming yesterday.
No. Survive, Ducky.
So this site promotes itself as like a Twitch and YouTube alternative, and you can see the live streaming is now beginning. They want monetization eventually. There'll be social features inbuilt, making it bigger, trying to challenge the duopoly right now. Well, duopoly in the West, because there's alternatives in not in the West. And basically, it's an interesting take on a model where a lot of streaming sites are very open and being like, anyone can stream on this site. VStream is different. VStream is invite only. So I don't know how I feel about it essentially. What I wanted to bring up about it is the viability of Twitch and YouTube competitors, because we've seen sites like previously Mixer go under. Trovo's not that big now. Obviously Kick's the new kid on the block, and I know you've got a few things to say on that, Hannah. And now, like, for a VTuber specific site, we've got VStream. What do you think about how the streaming landscape will evolve and where the future is in terms of, is there potential for more hosts and more websites to take part?
So I'm gonna separate it into two separate parts where one is the world that I want to see, and the other is the world that is actually gonna happen.
Yep.
So the world that I want to see is, I really hope they succeed, because Twitch versus YouTube, first of all, it's fucking old. We shouldn't have monopolies. The fact that there are two major monopolies is just really sad.
Yep.
And even in Asia, the third parties actually tend to struggle. Like, Line Live actually shut down this year. Line Live shut down this year. Showroom is still struggling. And I want to say that the other alternatives, like, the most viable alternative that I have seen to date is, unfortunately, Instagram Live. Which is
I would argue TikTok Live, but yes. Instagram,
yes,
TikTok Live,
yes,
both
yes.
very similar platforms, but yes.
Yeah. Like, both of them very similar platforms, not monetizationable. And it's just, like, really hard to survive on either one. And the fact that you have to ally yourself with a major monopoly in order to succeed is kind of sus, right? Like, Nico Nico is actually dying, and Billy is only viable in one particular area, and Lord help you if you get on the wrong side of that area's ruling party.
Also, just Lord help you if you get on the wrong side of that community, because people have been pushed out from Billy and various other Chinese streaming platforms before because they got on the wrong side of the community.
Yeah. Like, I am not going to mention which streamers this happened to, but let us just say that, like, there is a reason why certain streamers will try to stay away from Chinese as much as possible.
There is one particular EN indie streamer that I know because I've spoken to them about it.
Yeah. Like,
so it's not a rare occurrence.
Yeah. Like, it's not just indie, like, people even in the major areas will stay away from Billy as much as possible.
Yeah.
There's a reason why a particular Luxio member does not stream Billy even though everybody else has.
Yep.
And Nico is, unfortunately, like, they are literally alive because they have several commercial deals that keep them alive. But other than that, the entire user base has kind of moved on to YouTube. And so I want to see others succeed, that being said.
Yep.
And this is me more with my politics hat talking about this. But unfortunately, the reality of the situation is making a tech startup is extremely expensive.
I mean, it's definitely the wrong climate for it right now as well.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In a double-digit BIP Fed climate, getting startup funding kind of hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, the reality is just that, like, there is a push for more internet regulation, and the downside of regulation is always that you are just going to have a lot more red tape, in addition to the climate just sucking. So, you're unfortunately just not going to have a lot of viable competitors. I do like the fact that, like, VStream kind of markets itself as being on top of Twitch and YouTube and not being a direct competitor, which is great. because
Yeah.
this makes me think of Niji Sanji actually has like a private fan club application, which is a lot more applicable if you're in Japan.
Yeah.
I do know that like for certain tiers, you'll actually get like handwritten letters and stuff that are pretty cool, but that doesn't nearly get utilized enough on the EN side. But I think VStream is almost like kind of like a more international version of that. And so I hope they survive in that aspect because I do think that side of things has yet to be explored.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like if you're trying as a pure play like Twitch YouTube competitor, you're just not going to survive.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if you're a direct competitor, it's a rough climate. So VStream for me, to add on to this, the close community helps because it means that in essence VStream almost becomes like a massive stream team, where it's like this is a site that has a team of creators who are willing to stream on it, and they are supporting that team of creators by giving them the tools to succeed on this site that they might not have on Twitch or YouTube or another streaming platform. So that in itself is very interesting to me. I think in terms of, the commercial viability, is there's no exclusivity. I don't think there would be anything stopping someone streaming on VStream and also streaming on Twitch, or streaming on YouTube. Twitch's and YouTube's TOSs both allow it. So it would be a case of whether VStream calls for exclusivity or not. If they call for exclusivity, I'm mildly concerned for the creators, because that is VStream as a platform does not have the same level of discoverability as Twitch or YouTube, purely by the fact that less people, way less people know that it exists. And even though that discovery features are better, like if you look right now at the VStream homepage, we can see who is live right now. It's not that's not like the same level as going onto YouTube, an app that everyone uses, and getting something in your recommended, getting another, for you, Rin Penrose short in your recommended, and figuring out whether you want to watch her some more. Like that's the key for discoverability for creators, not exclusivity on niche sites that can provide support. So
especially because some niche sites, like, you're only as good as your largest creator. Which unfortunately was the issue with Showroom, where literally it was who is the largest person streaming on your platform right now, and how many of you guys are actually going, like, how many Naniwa Danchi fans are actually going to watch AKB Girl? The answer is 0. Like, no, actually I should say the answer is 1, because it's me.
It's you. Yeah.
It is me. It is I, the Naniwa Danchi and AKB48 girl.
Yeah. Oh, I want to just add on to Lampy's point. Yes, Lampy.
Yeah.
Many of these smaller sites do count on bigger creators to take their followings with them. The biggest example of that is Kick. Like Kick recently, where they took Trainwrecks like fronted the project. Obviously, it's owned by Stake co-founder Ed Craven, who in Stake, for the uninformed, is a crypto casino site.
Oh gosh.
And what Trainwrecks did was like promote it to his allies on Twitch. So you now got guys like Edin Ross on Kick, and it's basically just become an exile point for the guys who are deemed too unsafe for Twitch. And so you can kind of get an idea of the community that fosters. VStream's a little bit different, where I feel like the joining of waves and the vetting process would be a lot more stringent, and the fact that it's seemingly a close community means that they can offer that support and kind of create a environment that is supportive of multiple viewpoints and creators and kind of fostering what they want. I'm just worried about the creators losing out on commercial viability by streaming exclusively on a growing site versus maintaining their platforms that are already existing on Twitch and YouTube.
I do hope that, like, okay, so this isn't to shit on crypto gambling sites.
No, please shit on crypto gambling sites. Just do it. They don't deserve anything.
Well, all right. So I'm gonna be frank. I do like gambling. I love poker. I love Pachislo. Like I went to Pachislo thing
Mm.
at Anime Central and I was over the moon because I was just like, I haven't played this in years. That being said, I studied finance um in undergrad. I work in finance professionally. And so I kind of know inherently the downsides to all this.
Yeah.
And what I find so insidious about just like the entire blockchain thing and gambling in particular is that it tends to prey on the most vulnerable and exploit their like desperation.
Yep.
And so even though Hassan and I have a lot of differing viewpoints, I will give him a lot of credit for being like, I hate gambling.
Yep.
And just holding firm against it. Because I'm just like, you know what? That is really cool. That you are willing to walk away from several millions of dollars in paychecks to just be like, this is bad for my community because my community is not educated enough for this.
Yep.
And it's not to say that like lack of education is bad, but like he literally cannot tell you on a sponsored stream, hey, like you shouldn't be gambling if you know you are in a desperate situation. This is not meant to help you. This is meant to be for fun.
Yep.
Right? And so I love the fact that VStream, as opposed to all the other alternatives that exist, is a lot less gambling focused. Because I do feel like a lot of the Western ones tend to be that way. I hope it kind of stays as more of like a, you know, streamer team slash Niji Sanji application alternative where they can possibly do a little bit more intimate things with their communities on this.
Yeah.
But I hope they stay there.
Yeah.
It's TBD.
Alright, yeah. So for like, to summarize all of this, VStream is a platform I really like. I really like the idea of it. And in a utopian world, I think it would be good. The problem is that we're not in that utopian world. I am a little bit worried about its commercial viability and thereby the streamers on it. But with that being said, it is a lot better than the other Twitch and YouTube alternatives that we have out on the market. What I hope and what I think is the best case scenario is a place where these streamers can stream on their preferred platforms and stream on VStream and then simulcast to their preferred platforms. So whether that be Twitch or YouTube. And by doing so,
for that reason.
And by doing so, they grow their VStream audience and they grow VStream without sacrificing the potential revenue opportunity of streaming on Twitch and YouTube. So, and Kick has a couple of VTubers on it, but not many. And Kick is primarily now just slot streams. So people are there for the 95-5 split that they can only offer because they have blood money from crypto gambling. That's my whole take on that.
It only makes money when a country fails.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, I think that's all to talk about VStream. I would be very interested to pick the brains of any VStream streamer in Wave 1 or 2 or the platform itself. So if you're somehow lurking,
Ducky,
treat this as a call out. I will be in your emails and in your DMs. Anyways, moving on to third topic. Yeah, Bao lost like all of her subathon money, by the way.
This makes me so sad, but Bao was one of the ones that got picked up by UTA with Shoto, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that alone makes me really happy, because there is one thing that us Americans are good at. It's fucking, like, going after you in the court of law.
Yeah. So, I guess for me, as a recap, and then as usual, I'll always throw to your opinion, is, Bao did a subathon a little while back, actually. I think it was in anticipation of her first album. That was going to go towards music videos, she said, of her original songs. And as we can see by the invoice here, she spent nearly $35,000 US, which is a lot of money. That is no small fee, especially for an influencer. Even someone of Bao's size, like $35,000 is significant. It was going to go towards animated music videos for the original songs, and they haven't delivered, they've ghosted, and all they've done is refund exactly $20 to date. Bao said that she's going to be taking up more sponsorships and partnerships to recoup the costs and be able to move forward. But the thing that came out of this is that it is not exclusive. So Mary, the head honcho of Merryweather Media, the guys that do the lore videos for the shoujo, also the kind of 4-Koma comics that you see on Twitter. He mentioned that he knows who this is and called them a scumbag, and mentioned that, they talk shit about Mary behind his back. And he goes on to say, like, how about instead of talking shit about other studios that actually deliver, you focus on not scamming your clients and actually refunding them if you can't give them what you paid for. So this is kind of funny. Where it's like Takahata and Mary being like bantering about it. Vienna also mentioned it. Vienna said quite a few of us were affected by this. So I think that implies that Vienna was also affected.
Oh gosh.
And then also,
I hope they do a class action lawsuit.
And then Ultra Tori, who is the sweetest bean, doesn't say anything harmful whatsoever, also mentioned that she had a very manipulative experience with them. Used my name, dragged my friends to their side so they can climb a social ladder in the community. And yeah. So a lot of people affected by this one shady company who people like, it's being talked about behind the scenes who it is, and we won't be speculating here, but it's very interesting to see this kind of fallout. And I guess what it shows for me is, where does VTubing, like, contracts, people, we spoke about contracts like 2 shows ago.
Show 2.
Yeah, and that's not to say that these people wouldn't have had contracts and that they're probably going through the recourse of it, but it's very interesting to see how one big scammer, I guess, managed to win the trust and take a lot of money from people.
Whenever people are just like, how did so many people get scammed? Just remember, Madoff exists. Right? It's not just like, scamming, I think, is so predatory because people trust people who others have worked with. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to admit that you've been scammed out of something. You want to assume the best of someone. And so I fully understand why somebody could have gotten scammed. I'm just really, it sounds kind of bad, but I'm very, I don't want to say that I'm happy about Bao getting caught up in all this, but I'm really happy that she's with UTA.
Yes.
Because if there's one thing that us Americans are fucking good at, it is finding the best lawyers to hunt your ass down and, like, kill you for not fulfilling a contract. Yeah. And so that is the silver lining to all this, that the person that they happen to scam is affiliated with a big shot American agency, and that big shot American agency has her back.
Yeah.
So I really hope they fulfill the terms of their contract, which is, protect the talent, and that they fucking assassinate this guy as soon as possible.
Yeah, look, pretty much. The thing is people like Bao would have a lot of recourse in this because of being backed by UTA. Vienna with Loaded. It's the people like Oteru where it's like a little bit grim. Yeah. And I think what it goes to show is, like, in VTubing there's still a lot of grifting going on. And while the reputation of the scene is going higher, and there's very reputable people in any space really, the art space, the animation space, whatever, and you can get those comms, sometimes you just miss. Like, maybe they delivered on projects well previously, but they didn't deliver on this one. for example, as pure speculation, or like they're kind of new and up and coming and they've got a really good portfolio, but you know the portfolio is not legit and they don't have people to back. That one's a little bit easier to read. A situation like this should never happen, and it's heartbreaking that it happened to all of these creators. But I think what it does show is keep your guards up still a little bit, people, and even sometimes the big streamers get it wrong. And the only thing that you can do from there is make sure that you support them, and hopefully they can have some proper recourse to get their money back. I don't have any news about who this big guy is that is apparently scamming people, although I probably could get it. I just haven't really taken too much interest in the story, because it's something that will resolve itself over time. It's a legal issue more than likely, so not much people would be able to share regardless publicly. But just know that, you know, people should keep their guards up a bit more and all that kind of stuff.
And contracts are super important.
Oh, we fucking love contracts in this podcast. We love contracts so much.
We are politics people, Ducky.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing like a good contract. Well, also you kind of have to honor the contract. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Company's not honoring the contract. It is what it is. I really just wanted to bring this up because it's super topical and it's kind of relevant right now and what's happening. And honestly, hopefully next time we go live, we'll have a bit more news on this. Maybe we'll be able to report on like who the company is and explain the reasonings why it happened. But for now, this is all we have. And we can speculate a little bit, but ultimately we'll be like, the talents should at the end of the day get their money back. It's just a shame they had to go through this experience. Yeah. Kind of agree with all that?
We're rooting for you.
Pardon?
We're rooting for Bao.
Yeah. And everyone. Like, you know, Mary, who's getting kind of his reputation slandered behind closed doors by this guy. Although that's very hard to do because Mary is very big. Vienna, Altero, all the other guys that have come forward, because I've only just brought a couple. I wonder if I check the quote tweets if there's some more. It's probably just people like, you know, where's the Sicilian Mafia when you need them? That's kind of where you're at right now, I think.
It's kind of funny because people are always just like, yo, like, why isn't the CIA more all-powerful? And I'm just like, you know...
Yeah.
This is a good example of why.
Yeah. Wow, we're at an hour. I guess this kind of brings us to the last topic that we had lined up. With this wonderful editorial written up by my Newsdrop colleague, Teddy, about a new VTuber project called Izumo, from a company called AnotherBall, who is made by the former founder of Prison Project, also known as Captain, who left Prison Project when Prison Project was absorbed by Sony Music Entertainment Japan. And this is a new VTuber project. It says that they're focusing on AI and Web3, which raises red flags for me personally, but I'll push on. But they've managed to raise 2.2 million USD from various angel investors. And what this goes to show is when you look at this list of investors, there is still a positive future for VTubing and commercial viability for VTubing that a lot of people have seemingly lost recently based off of relative drama that doesn't have a lot of commercial impact.
Okay, so I'm gonna just speak out about that relative drama because, like, again, you know, last week I was at Anime Central. When, I'm not gonna call myself a boomer, but I am gonna say that, yes, I probably belong at a museum.
Hannah, what age does Hannah, what number does your age start with?
Well,
No comment. You'll take that on notice.
I'll plead the fifth.
Okay, yeah.
I love being my age, but let's just say I'm double the age as some VTubers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that should give away how old I am.
Yep.
But when you get to my age, you have a lot of friends who are in places, and that means that they will say things and we'll talk, right? Because like I feel like the walls of a convention will just fall in if we don't talk to each other, right? And the thing about it is that always there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that nobody ever sees. And so people are always like shit talking things that they do not fully understand. So whenever there's like a flush of good news like this, where like people like the founder of Macari is like, you know what? I think this is super viable. I'm always like, yeah, you are right.
Yeah. There's a lot of big backers in here, like founder of Polygon. There's the CTO at Sony Corp. A couple of angel investors in here. Kevin Lin, co-founder of Twitch. So there's a lot of big names in this backing this new agency, and it's only one example. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is just one example, and there are many other agencies, many other projects that get up without any sort of angel VC funding, any sort of assistance, and they're just passion projects. But what this does show is when the storm of the tech recession is weathered, there is probably still going to be money in the influencer economy. Marketing agencies are already moving towards influencers as being a primary source of promotion, and that's been the trend for the last decade since the rise of Instagram. And it will continue being not just Facebook, but Instagram itself for influencer marketing. And as a result...
And not TikTok.
Yeah. And not TikTok. And as a result, these investments are kind of, they put faith into a project, and there's probably like something to do with the whole like Web3 bit and AI bit, which kind of just makes me want to snooze because it reminds me of basically every AI and Web3 project currently out there being absolutely terrible. And why I don't have high hopes for Hollow Earth, but here we go. But there is like, there is something about here where like there's a VTuber part of it. And there, at the end of the day, with this whole investment into an arm that is very much putting VTubers front and center of what they do, shows that if there is enough innovation in the space, especially on the tech side of things, this too can be your company. This too can be VTuber. Like, VTubing is no longer, I guess, a space where people can just start from scratch, and they often do, and that's the still main thing. But there is room to grow still. It is not just going to be the big three forever.
I do hope, and honestly, like, I think it's kind of obvious because, I mean, I know a lot of people peg me as a Niji Sanji supremacist. I mean,
you are.
My Oshi. I may or may not be spending in a... People were very shocked by the amount of money that I spent on the Hollow EN live, shall we speak, right? I did not want to leave that to chance.
Yeah.
Because there is no fucking way I'm going to miss out on Ina's 3D live performance debut, right?
Yep.
But that being said, I do like competition. Not necessarily because I think competition for the sake of competition is good, but because there are so many different people that, like, one or both of the major companies are going to miss out on. All three, if we're going to talk about VShojo.
Mm-hmm.
And that there is beauty in, like, more competition.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, Rin Penrose is clearly an example of this.
Your beloved.
Ami, she's so beloved. I have literally approached British VTuber sims and been like, have you watched my Lord and Savior, Rin Penrose? And them going back to me and saying, do you know how many times I have been asked that question this week? Like, she is just a precious gem. But not just her, like, people in Prison Project, like Shiki is just adorable. Yes. And the more competition we have, the better, because everyone's gonna have their own different eye. And this is
Yeah.
just further proof of that.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that could have made me feel better about this list of angel investors is if SoftBank's founder was in here.
Yeah.
Although I think after WeWork, he might be a little bit more like hesitant to do more risky investments.
Yep.
But other than that, like, this is a very, very solid list. So,
Yep.
yes, Web3 sucks. I've tried to say this all the time, but like, you know what? I'm here for this. Project founder, I'm rooting for you. I hope you find your Rin Penrose.
Yeah. Like, it's the one thing, because I always bring up these points and we always want to talk about these things because in a lot of the VTuber news, a lot of it focuses on the talents that currently exist and the things that they say and the actions that happen in the community. And on top of that, that's usually with an overwhelmingly negative slants. I'm not very high on the hopes that anything LGBT related will get a fair mention during Pride Month, for example, despite the fact that there will be numerous events happening in the space. But what that goes to show is when we present this, I want to pull this kind of news up because it kind of shows the other side of VTubing, of the commercial aspect of VTubing, and where things are actually going, where the money's flowing, because ultimately where the money's flowing is where people are going to go. And the influencers and the VTubers that you see today would not be here if they didn't have the money to do so. And whether that's money that they make outside of VTubing and keep VTubing as a hobby, or whether they are all full-time VTubers and content creators. Doesn't really matter. The money still has to keep flowing. And when more of these investments into interesting VTuber projects come up, and the whole pie that's available in VTubing increases in terms of the amount of money, it's only going to continue benefiting the scene. This is exactly what we saw in regular, traditional influencer marketing and streaming. It's what we'll probably see here. And I think that's kind of the whole point of bringing up this specific investment and why investment more broadly is something that people need to be looking at in VTubing, not just the current existing market.
Yeah, because there's so many special people that have not been discovered yet.
Yes.
And like, this is something that I want to emphasize. So I'm not going to specify who, but a certain somebody was not particularly big when they were picked up by this major agency. But when they were picked up by this major agency, they got blown up out of the wazoo. And it's because they had all those special talents, but they just hadn't reached that critical size yet.
Yeah.
And the number of people that this kind of like, this summary kind of like covers is literally double digits, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about Niji Sanji, I'm talking about like my whole life faves, like Ina and Kiara. Both of them, when they were indie creators, they were very small. I don't want to say that they were super small, but they were definitely not the size that they are right now.
Yeah.
And they grew up as a result of Hololive. And there are just so many people like that out there. There are some people who are just like, you know what? I think the VTuber space is very saturated. And I'm just like, well, clearly you have not dealt with streamers.
Yeah.
Because I am here to tell you that, you know, even single-digit million means nothing to influencers.
Yeah.
Most of the serious influencers are actually in the double-digit millions. So this means bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there is no VTuber like Logan Paul or insert name there. Yeah, there's no VTuber like that yet.
Or Ludwig, right? Like, none of them exist yet in VTubing, and I am here to see whether or not we'll see that. But even if they
it'll eventually happen. It'll eventually happen. Yeah. It's a matter of time, in my opinion.
Like, it's not even a matter of time. Every year that passes, we get yet another breakout hit, right? So first it was Hollow Myth. Then we had, you know, the birth of Pomu, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, as much as Pomu downplays herself, she did create a new market for herself. And then, okay, so I actually kind of lost it when Mista was like, I'm only popular because I'm part of Luxium. And I'm like, I am actually punching my screen because as somebody who's studying marketing, both like academically and professionally, I don't think you appreciate. Well, he does appreciate because he did the work, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's not fully hammered in just how important it is to break into a new market.
Yep.
And the fact that like I actually didn't know this until recently, but Niji-Sanji JP actually doesn't have that many female viewers. They didn't get those female viewers until Luxium happened.
What can you say?
Right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
do I not matter?
No,
yeah.
you don't.
So like Kusuha only has 70% male viewers. Hanae, who I think gets to a little bit more even, is actually 60%. Most of Rofmao is about 50-50. It's only until you get to some of the smaller ones where you get even close to like 30% female viewers. I mean, 30% male viewers.
Yeah, like majority women.
Yeah. Like Rofmauer does not have majority women. Yeah, so if you're in the West, you go to Kuzuha and Kanae because you want men, right? Because you're like me. You're a thirsty girl.
Imagine wanting men. That is totally me. I want men.
He's hot, okay?
I'm not disagreeing here. There is no disagreements in this call whatsoever.
And like, yes, we want her men. And you know what? We are valid for wanting men.
Yeah.
We want men and we want actual lesbian women.
In this call, we are heterophobic.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's still an iconic clip.
I feel like it's so funny that it's still iconic after almost 2 years of this.
Yeah, Mario. We just want normal men. Just innocent men. I love that clip so much. Someone needs to recreate that in VTubing.
Yes. Like, okay, I'm sorry. I love lesbians, but like, I just want to punch Kuzuha's lights out, right? Like, that is it's a very particular atmosphere, and it's kind of like only my fellow, loving men may understand this, but it is there's a great there's a great tweet about the life cycle of the male character appreciation arc, where you start at like, this person's hot, you want to fuck them, you just wish they're so adorable you can die, and then at the very end it turns into
you want to fight them constantly.
No, like, you want to fight them constantly is a little bit too soft. It's you wish a Ford Explorer would just crash into their living room and blow up, right?
Yes.
And you're just like, yeah, I want to fucking see that. And like, it's the feeling of the Briskadet putting their Sunny puppet through a paper shredder. It's just very particular, and like, creating new fields is great. And this year we have Rin Penrose, where you're just like, I don't want to call her a failure of a human being, but like, my favorite clips of Rin Penrose is her getting absolutely grilled by her mother on screen.
Yeah. And
so I'm just like, there are new fields being created every day. So this is what I live for. Hopefully this creates yet another field.
Yeah. No, it's things are still going, so don't worry about it. Don't believe all of the alarmism.
Yeah.
I think that's about it though, right? Like, I don't think there's much else to add. Like, it's funny, it's been 3 weeks. But in that 3 weeks, it hasn't been a lot of like news, like big news to talk about. Like, maybe we can keep better track of things and talk about little things here on this, but like, we like talking about the big expansive topics and giving a little bit of a different opinion on things. So we'll don't know. We'll still figure it out. We're still figuring out the pace of things. But I really enjoyed the discussion. I thought it was all very interesting.
End on a positive note, because you know what? The future is super bright.
Yes. I'm just looking through news drop just to see if there's anything else that we need to mention. Oh, Any Color got another doxer fined in court. I think 3 million yen had to pay in damages. So there you go.
And you know what? You know what? You haven't even called out the fact that I'm gonna be buying Vox Akuma's shirt and his I'm gonna be one of those kindred being like sniff sniff boy smell.
Yeah. I love the tweet with like the perfume with this shirt. Oh. It's the most degenerate, but I love it tweet. It's peak brain rot.
You know what? I'm gonna be doing that with my Pomo and Fish shirts, so I don't know what people are talking about.
God have mercy on your soul.
This reminds me of how there was that one time when Selene was doing her Predator creep. I literally was like, I am so aggressively bi in this moment.
Is that a boy I smell? Boy sniff? Oh my god. I should do that copy pasta once upon a time. Anyways, I'm tired. I'm really tired. It's been a long week. We might be able to yard for a bit longer, but I'm also kind of pulling the plug early. But yes, no, thank you everyone for coming along.